So how do we have words with God? Like, how do we go there with God in those moments of doubt and those moments of silence and those moments of perceived isolation? How do we journey through those and into the promise of connection and intimacy and communion? And I think of what Paul says at the end of 2 Corinthians when he says, may the communion of the Spirit be with you always. Like, this is the inheritance of what it is to be the people of God.
Yeah.
But if we're honest, prayer so often feels like we're just yelling into a canyon. And
Or a duty.
Or a duty. And
Yeah.
maybe there's some sound returning back to us, but is that actually another voice, or is that just an echo of our own voice? And I've heard from so many people, like, they want to have words with God, but it seems like God doesn't want to have words with them. I had a friend who told me, he said, look, God's the only person who can get away with expecting you to show up for a conversation daily that he refuses to show up for.
But do you think that's accurate?
But just sit with that. Like
I'll sit with it.
before we like get into defend mode and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just like, let's be honest. We want to have words with God.
Right.
Yeah.
We want to hear from him.
Yeah,
we were made for intimacy with him. And so what are the things that keep us from enjoying that life? What are the things that keep us from trading boring, empty prayer where it's just, I'm showing up for this thing, but God's not showing up for real connection that extends outside of the prayer closet into our everyday lives? If you look at what Paul says in places like Romans 12 and 1 Thessalonians 5, he invites us into this prayer that is without ceasing, that doesn't end.
Yeah.
Well, if we have this transactional and singular view of prayer, that doesn't work. Like, that doesn't fit with real life.